It may not look like it, but all this food is vegan. Once seen as a niche dietary choice, veganism is on the rise. A vegan diet consists of only plant-based foods, which means no meat, fish, eggs, or dairy. Over the past 3 years, the number of people in the US who claim to be vegan has gone up by 600%, and multiple benefits come along with ditching animal products.
So if we were to reduce specifically our beef consumption, and also the consumption of other animal products, we could dramatically reduce the emissions of the food system.
Although some argue veganism is not the best solution to save the planet.
You just need to make informed choices, and informed choices means not reacting to the latest fad.
Vegan food is becoming both more accessible and more affordable.
I would say don't underestimate the importance of really learning to cook great vegan food.
At the same time, developments in lab-grown meat mean we might soon be able to eat animals without killing them.
So we think serving meat without killing an animal, serving meat without all the waste, without all the environmental devastation, is a lunch, is a breakfast, is a dinner that's much closer to our values, is much closer to the ethics that I think we all share.
With all this growth and people eating plant-based foods, as well as increasing amounts of vegan options emerging, will we all be vegan in the future?
I would love to think the future is completely vegan.
And this has to be the way forward. I mean, we can't possibly carry on eating as much meat and fish as we are.
There are many reasons why people choose to be vegan. One of them is animal cruelty. Mass meat production leads to animals spending their entire lives in cages, waiting to be killed for human consumption. Although there are regulations set for this kind of production, many people disagree with the conditions they are kept in and believe that animals aren't here just for humans. Other people choose to be vegan for nutritional reasons.
One of the things I think is really important for people to know is that there's a huge amount of scientific evidence that really points to the ability of a vegan diet to lower the risk for a lot of different chronic health conditions like type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease and even some types of cancer. One of the common misconceptions about vegan eating is that people don't get enough protein. And the truth is, on a vegan diet, if you're getting an adequate number of calories throughout the day and eating a wide variety of plant-based foods, it's very rare that people on a vegan diet don't get enough protein.
The way we farm meat and dairy emits greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change. If everyone went vegan, it would have huge environmental benefits.
The worst meat by far is beef and lamb. So if you put that in context, a kilogram or even a serving of beef emits about 10 times more than pork and poultry, and those emit again 10 times more than plant-based protein sources. We and others have calculated that until end of the century, the food system, the emissions that are due to the food system, they might take up the complete emissions budget that we have in order to stay below a global warming of 2 degrees, let alone 1.5 degrees. So it's really essential that we change the way we consume and what we consume. Otherwise, we really have no chance of limiting global warming to below that threshold.
While increasing greenhouse gas emissions are a massive concern for the future of the planet, meat and dairy production also involves a lot of land being taken up by crops grown to feed livestock. Studies suggest that if all Americans switch to a plant-based diet, there could be enough food produced to feed an extra 350 million people.
It needs about 10 kilograms of grains to make a cow grow by 1 kilogram. For pork, that's about 6 kilograms, for chicken, 3 to 4, and for fish, 1.5 to 2. So you always need more feed for the animal to grow, right? So you have a huge loss in terms of what could otherwise be consumed by humans.
But is taking animals out of the picture completely the best solution? Farming has become more intensive than ever, and experts say there are only 60 years left of harvest before the soil becomes too degraded to grow crops. There may be a way to solve this, but it involves animals. Isabella Tree and her husband Charlie Burrell run a rewilding project in the UK. In 2001, they stopped trying to grow crops in their 3,500-acre farmland and instead planted native wildflower species and grasses, introduced a range of animals, and waited for nature to return.
that summer we just heard this incredible sound of insects coming back. That was a kind of revelation. We hadn't even noticed that we'd been missing this incredible humming, buzzing, thrumming sound. It was just amazing.
The animals here are pasture-fed only. Rather than eating indoors, they are allowed to graze naturally.
If you keep the animal population very low, the grazing and browsing animals very low, then you get this dynamic system. And so if you're killing the animals, then it makes sense to me that you eat them for meat. We all have to reduce our meat consumption. I'm not suggesting that we can continue on this mad trajectory of eating more and more and more meat, but that isn't to say that we shouldn't be eating, on occasion, sustainable, organic, purely pasture-fed, because that's really important. So not fed any grain, pasture-fed animals, recognising that they are really integral to the whole cycle of how nature and the soil works.
One thing that is for sure is we need sweeping changes. We need to make changes because we know where we've got to with 50 years of intensification of our farming systems. And for me, nature is so important. Biodiversity, species, life back into our countryside is so important that that has to be part of that future.
I think the whole vegan and vegetarian debate is fantastic, and I think at last we're beginning to really shine a light on the industrial meat industry and the lunacy of feeding grain to animals in order for us to then eat the animals. Where I think the vegan debate misses a point is that grazing and free-roaming grazing animals in a system like we have are really important for soil recovery.
As the debate over the most sustainable ways to farm continues, more and more vegan options are becoming available to consumers. We spoke to Forward Food, who are training chefs in the catering industry on how to make plant-based meals.
Forward Food is a programme of activity to equip and enable chefs and the catering industry to shift the focus of menus away from meals primarily centred on animal products and to include more plants on plates. I think the biggest thing is working with the catering industry. Because they serve millions of meals every day, we're able to really increase the availability of plant-based foods so we can have a big impact really quickly.
I don't think it's difficult at all to cook a vegan dish. It's the fact that most of our chefs and most of us have grown up in a time where every dish had its central piece of meat or its central piece of fish, and it's not kind of naturally how people cook. But now the younger generation and chefs who are really, having to basically get this fantastic vegan food onto their menus, they're having to think in a different way. The more really great plant-based dishes there are on menus, the more plants we're going to be eating and the less meat. So, I just think it's a win-win. What I think is really important is that the vegan diet loses its kind of rather sort of worthy, hairy, hippie image, or its rather worthy image, and it just becomes mainstream, not with a sort of vegan label, just eating really, really delicious food that happens to be plant-based.
But while veganism gains popularity in Western countries, around the world, people are eating more meat. Between 2010 and 2017, global meat consumption grew from 277 million tons to 311 million tons. And the amount of meat we eat is predicted to keep on rising. Rather than farming more animals, what if we could make more food artificially? We visited Orchard Grocer in New York City to try their vegan egg sandwich. But this egg is made from plants, not chickens. This is egg created by food company Just and is made from all plant-based ingredients. I feel like if you didn't tell me that this was made from plants, I would just assume I'm eating an egg sandwich. But Just are also taking things a step further. They are creating meat that is grown in a lab.
This is actual meat. It smells like it feels like it is it.
Cultured meat is real meat made from animal cells instead of being made from live confined animals. So it basically starts with isolation of a small volume of cells from the animal without having to sacrifice it, and then from this small volume of cells we culture them by providing them the liquid solution with nutrients that typically the cells use to proliferate. The solution contains the proteins, the sugars, the vitamins, and by using them the cells will be able to proliferate, and from the small number we isolated we'll then be able to generate millions of cells that we can then use for our final cultured meat product.
Well, today, most people are eating food that doesn't connect with their values, right? Most people agree that it's important to be kind, it's important to be compassionate, it's important to live and eat with integrity, but often the food that's on our plates doesn't represent those things. I think some vegans would eat cultured meat, and some vegans cannot stand the taste of meat or the smell of meat, so they'd run away from it just as fast as they would from conventional meat. So if you're a vegan and you just don't like the taste of it, you don't like the look of it, you're not gonna like this, well, that's fine. We're not doing this for vegans. We're doing this for 99% of the world who love meat, but just want to give them a better way to do it.
Veganism is an increasingly accessible and popular lifestyle choice. Does this mean we could all be vegan one day?
I really feel that the big change is going to be when people who do eat a bit of meat or fish go into restaurants or go into their kind of university canteen and they see really delicious plant-based food. And it doesn't even need to be labelled, just a really lovely curry that just happens to be vegan.
We all want an end to intensive meat production for all the reasons that we know about. But I think the solution to the sustainability of food production on the planet is complex, and just simply writing animals out of that equation is too simplistic.
More people are eating meat today than yesterday, and more people eat meat tomorrow than today. I think we'll get to a point sometime in the next decade or so where the majority of the meat produced in that day is coming from cells, not live animals.
I think we'll get there eventually, but I'm very encouraged by all the movement in that direction. And for everybody eating a bit less, that really has a benefit for everybody as well.